Tony Stark is a weapons manufacturer who inherited his company from his father, Howard Stark. Tony was in Afghanistan when he got hit by one of his own weapons. Tony Stark wakes up in a cave with shrapnel in his chest. Dr. Jensen was unable to remove all of the shrapnel, so he installs an electromagnet into Tony Stark's chest to keep the shrapnel from entering his heart. Tony learns that he's being held captive in this cave by one of the members of the Ten Rings called Raza. Tony is shocked when he finds out that his captors have a huge collection of his Stark Tech weapons. Tony is forced against his will to make the Jericho missile. Tony Stark pretends to build the Jericho missile, but instead he first builds a miniature arc reactor to keep the shrapnel out of his heart. In order to try and escape his captive, Tony Stark decides to build a suit of armor, and this is the Iron Man suit, Mark I. During their escape, Jensen doesn't make it. Tony Stark escapes in a fiery explosion. As Tony Stark is wandering the desert, he is rescued by Colonel James Rhodes. Once home, the first thing Tony Stark does is call for a press conference. At this conference, Pepper Potts, Tony Stark's assistant, is approached by Philip Coulson of the Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement and Logistics Division to meet up and talk about his captivity. At this conference, Tony Stark announces that he is shutting down the weapons manufacturing part of Stark Industries. Tony Stark makes another Iron Man suit called Mark II. Tony Stark goes to the firefighters' benefit for the family funds. At this party, Tony Stark learns that his company is selling weapons to the enemy. Tony Stark puts on his third Iron Man suit and flies over and destroys all of his weapons in the enemy hands. When Tony Stark is taken off his Iron Man costume, Mark III, you can see in the background Captain America's S.H.I.E.L.D. Obadiah Stane meets up with Tony Stark's captives and steals the Iron Man suit he made in the cave, Mark I, and kills them all. Pepper Potts breaks into Obadiah Stane's office computer to steal some information. Obadiah Stane tries to have the arc reactor shrunken down to power his Ironmonger suit, but his scientists, his engineers, are unable to do it. Obadiah Stane steals the arc reactor straight from Tony Stark's chest. Tony Stark puts in the original arc reactor he built in the cave and goes off to save Pepper Potts from Obadiah Stane in his Ironmonger suit. Tony Stark and Obadiah Stane are fighting on top of the Stark building, and Tony Stark defeats Obadiah Stane by having Pepper Potts overload the arc reactor. Tony Stark has a press conference for what happened last night at Stark Industries, and Phil Coulson gives him a prepared speech, and he just says, "I am Iron Man."
Jarvis.
Welcome home, son.
I am Iron Man. You think you're the only superhero in the world? Mr. Stark, you've become part of a bigger universe. You just don't know it yet.
Who the hell are you?
Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh.
I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.